Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna look at some basic terraforming in Planet 2 with our main focus being on how to make realistic mountains and lakes. This video is going to be directly linked to next week's video where we'll look at how to add rocks and foliage to tie everything together like you see on the screen here. So that means that today we're only focusing on the foundation of the mountain and lake but not the foliage. So with that being said, let's get started with the video. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna go to terrain down here and then we're gonna start with our lake. So let's first start by choosing what painting tool we're gonna use. So first we're gonna choose sand here. Of course you choose whatever you want to. I just feel like going with sand for this lake. So then in the sculpting menu here, we have quite a few options. And for doing lakes, I like to start using the Flatten To Terrace tool and I'm gonna show you why in just a second. So let's do that. And then we see the terrace height is set to 1, which is perfect for this. And then we're also going to do shallow pool offset. For the painting here, make sure you use selected if you chose one of these. We're going to turn the intensity up to 100 and then the size, I think 13 for now. Then we just paint out the area where we want our lake to be. So I think this is fine for now, and you can't really see a huge difference here, but if I go to the water menu down here, you can see it has made this slight little slope. That means we're able to put water in. And that's the reason we use Flatten To Terrace for this first, because then you know you're gonna get this very shallow edge and that the water is gonna go all the way up to the top. So after we've done that, we can choose the push tool, and then I'm gonna still stick with the 13 here, and then just push it down a little bit, and then we're going to use flatten to foundation. I think we're going to turn that down to 10, and then we're going to go to the lowest point of what we push down here. So then we're just painting out a deeper section of the lake here. And the thing is, with lakes I like to do it in layers, so we get some different height variations and stuff like that. So I still have the flatten to foundation tool on, but this time I'm going to put it sort of in the middle of the lowest and highest point here, and then you can see we get this height that's in the middle between those two. The size here is a bit too big, but I made sure not to paint over this, so we're just going to turn it down, and then we're going to go over the lowest section here once again. Just sort of outlining. And you see, I'm always following the shape that we have made for the pool here. You could also use the Roughen Tool. I would turn the intensity down to say 30% and then just sort of flick it a bit all over the place here, so that this will help to give some more texture to the surface here. Then we're gonna go over with the Smooth Tool, and here I would up the intensity quite a bit, maybe 60%. Gonna start with that. Then we just go over the very harsh edges here, trying to smoothen it out a bit so that the transitions aren't as harsh. And then right by the edge here, we're gonna use 100%. So then on the outside here, I'm just gonna blend in the sand a bit with some light soil. Then we turn the intensity down to 30% and just sort of blend it out. This doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat, just because we're gonna go over it a few more times and like that. And then you could also do some more grass just to get like this nicely blended area with some different textures and colors all the way through. So then we're gonna put the water in here, but just make sure this is at sampled. It just makes everything a bit easier. So then when we put the water in here, you can see that we have some nice variations in depth in the lake here, which makes everything look a lot more natural. So now that we kind of have the outline of our lake, I think we should get started on the mountains. And for me, I want the mountains to go sort of around the water area here. So to do that, we're gonna have to remove the water because you can't really edit the terrain once you have placed down the water. So the first method you could use is, of course, just using the pull tool here and then just sort of shaping it like you want to. And this is perfectly fine for, say, smaller mountains, but it does take quite a lot of time to build it upwards, and therefore I like to use the terrain stamp tool instead. So to use this, you just set the height and width you want to start with. I'm gonna do height 20 meters because we're gonna pull it up and down a bit, but I don't want it to be so wide, so let's do 13 here. And then we sort of just place this a bit all over the place, and you can see it makes it a lot quicker to just fill the space here. And then make sure to get some variations in height, and it's not supposed to be symmetrical, it's not supposed to be like, nothing is symmetrical in nature. And then you can just use shift to drag it up or shift to pull it down to get this lower area. You could also twist it holding set, but the important thing is that we have a lot of different height variations here. And of course this does not look good right now, it's not supposed to either, so that's fine. So now that we've filled in some gaps here, we can use this pyramid, for instance, and then I'm gonna make it a bit wider. And this is really nice to make some decent mountain tops like that. And we're gonna also do one up here, and then we're gonna do a smaller one down here. Like that. And then this is where we really have to work with shaping the mountain. What you can do is use either the pull tool or the push tool. You're probably going to want to do both, but I start with the pull tool and then just kind of drag everything out so that everything is nicely connected and we don't get any harsh edges anymore. And especially at the bottom, it's important to drag it out so that we connect the mountains to the ground in a way that looks kind of natural. You just keep doing this all the way around until you feel like it's starting to take shape, and really focusing on the bottom part here, making a nice transition. And it doesn't have to be perfect right away because we're gonna make adjustments all the way through the process, so this is just the start of shaping the mountains. And like here, we've already used the terrain stamp tool, but I'm still using a lot of time with just manually pulling out and connecting everything here. So if we were to do this with only the pull tool, it would take us a lot more time. And then around the pointy tops here, we're also going to use the pull tool just to give it a bit more life and make it a bit thicker, just so it's not so symmetrical basically, because we don't really want that. Then I'm also going over just quickly with the smooth tool like that. So this is a pretty decent start, and as you can see, this is quite a big mountain. And also these pointy tops, they tend to disappear once you go too far away. So it could be a good idea to just use the smooth tool a bit on top there so that you don't get that very pointy edge. Just make this a little bit more pointy. And then just go over with the smooth tool. So then the next tool we're gonna look at here is the, what's it called? Chisel? One of those. I'm gonna go over a bit with that because this, I don't know how to explain what it does really, but it sort of shapes everything in quite an interesting way. It's really just a great way to get some realistic texture going. I've never really heard that word before, so, but yeah, I can tell what it's doing and how I'm gonna use it. So just sort of use this and get familiar with it until you kind of get the idea. And I especially like to use this tool by the pointy edges because it just brings some more life to them really. Like, can you even tell what I mean here? I'm not sure. Okay, like that. And then we're gonna go back to the pull tool. What you're gonna do is have the intensity at maybe like, I'd say 80%, just to sort of feel it out and see what you like. But I do 80% intensity and size 2, because what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add sort of veins to the mountain in a way. Just start at the highest point and then just drag it downwards. And then you'll see we get this veiny texture. Helps a lot with bringing some life and variation to the mountains. And once you've gotten started with this, you're kind of able to see where it would make sense that they would go and how they would connect to each other. And then you just keep doing this like wherever you feel like you need some more texture. Like mainly try to just start at the highest point and then just let it slide all the way down to the bottom, or let it meet at the middle with another vein. And don't worry if it's looking a bit weird or too sharp or anything, because we're gonna go over with the smooth tool later. So it's sort of just gonna be this slightly defined area, but it really does help and it's gonna bring everything together very nicely. And then for the bottom part here, you could up it to maybe like 3, and then we're gonna do the same thing, just sort of dragging it out here and then having them connect at the bottom. And then we're gonna go over just just slightly with the smooth tool here, so make sure you lower the intensity to maybe like 30%-ish. Then just drag it over ever so slightly. Don't overdo it because you don't want to lose too much detail. You want to have like this rough rocky texture in the middle, and then you can go down to having the smooth rock on the lower parts and then on the top here, and just sort of blend them together a bit. We're also going to go over with some grass and soil, and where we choose to put this is where we're also going to add foliage and stuff later on, because as you may know, plants don't really grow out of stone, so therefore we also need to carefully select some places where it would make sense to have some plants and trees and stuff like that. I'm gonna also go over with some soil here to blend it in nicely. So just make sure you try to blend the textures as best as you can so that it's not too harsh transitions. And then by the edge here where the water is gonna go, I also think it's nice to make that a bit of a greener area. Like that. So I think we're off to a good start now. So let's see if our water is still doing what it's supposed to. Let's just make sure this is still sand. And then we're gonna add our water and see how they look together. And that's pretty decent, I think. So this is essentially the basics of how I make mountains and lakes in Planet Zoo. And if you want to see how I've done the decorations here, then I'll walk you through that in next week's tutorial. I hope this video was useful to you in some way. And if it was, then please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!